Hey everyone, I'm Charles with Rocky Mountain ATV MC. Today I'm going to show you how to install the Tusk Grip Heater Kit on your motorcycle. The Tusk grip heaters are what we use on all of our adventure bikes, and the reason for that is you can run whatever grips you want with them, so that's kind of nice. And with these grip heaters, it's going to allow you to wear a thinner glove while you're out riding, and that way you can actually feel your controls and you still have that comfort. Now these are universal and can be used on ATVs, motorcycles, and snowmobiles. In this video though, we're showing you how to install it on machines with a twist throttle and a 12-volt system like this KTM. We do have an ATV video as well if you need to check that out. To get these installed, we recommend using some new grips with them. So these are the Tusk dual compound grips. We're going to need some common hand tools, including a razor blade. We have our Tusk grip and cutter because we're using some hand guards along with these. And then we just have simple stuff like contact cleaner, some grip glue, a little bit of electrical tape, a couple zip ties, and an electrical eyelet. These things do not come in the kit. We also have our wire strippers, and then you're going to need either a test light or a digital multimeter, and we're also using rags, safety glasses, and some rubber gloves. You'll also want to have a drill and a 1/2-inch drill bit. Now real quick, before we do anything on the bike, I want to cover the wiring because it can be a little confusing on the bike trying to see where everything goes. So with this, we have the 2 elements and 2 wires coming from each element. You grab 1 wire from the right and 1 wire from the left, and you're going to run those to the eyelet and to ground. It doesn't matter which wires you do that with. Now, the other 2 remaining wires, you're going to run those up to the center of your switch, and then you're going to have a 12-volt power source that you splice this wire into, or a key on power. This is just going to come up, and if you have this switch in the high position, the power is going to go through this terminal, out through the middle to the elements and to ground. If you switch it to low, what you're going to do is have the power come from this wire that has the resistor in it. It's going to come up here through the middle and then through the elements to ground. It's really pretty simple. If you have any questions, you want to refer to the instructions that come in your kit. Now the install process will vary just a little bit from motorcycle to motorcycle. The principles are the same, but you may or may not have to take off your gas tank and seat. For us, we are going to. We actually have a power wire up by the headlight, and then we're going to run our ground wire underneath this gas tank area. So we're going to gain access to that by removing the tank and our seat, and we're also going to pull this headlight cover back as well as remove our hand guards and our old grips. All right, first thing we're going to do is check for a good ground location. So we found this ground on our frame, or what we think will be a good spot. And then we're going to connect the test light to the positive side of the battery just to check it. So we know we have a good ground since it's lit up. With a multimeter, you'll see 12 volts on the scale. Now we need to look for key on power. So we'll go from that same grounding spot, check the back sides of all these connectors. None of them are going to be on all the time, but if I go to the back of that yellow one and turn the key on, we've got power to it. And by using a key on power source, that just makes sure we don't run our battery dead if we forget to turn these off when we're done using them. So to find that, you can use a test light and probe individual wires. Now, a good place to check is if you already have a 12-volt accessory. A lot of times you can just splice into one of those wires. Once you've located your power source and ground, you can start by installing the heating elements and then route those wires where they need to go. So to get the heating elements installed, we're going to use some contact cleaner on a rag and clean our throttle tube off as well as the left side of the bar. Then we can peel the backing off the heating element. We'll stick this into place. Now there's a couple things you want to keep in mind with this. You want to be really careful at these soldered joints so you don't damage them. And then as you route these wires, you're going to want to keep enough slack right here to where these wires don't get bound up. And to make sure that these soldered joints don't get damaged, we're going to run a little bit of electrical tape around them, and you can even use a zip tie to hold these down into place. Now, I can't stress this enough. You want to take up this rotational motion over a little bit longer length of wire. That way it's not moving a whole lot, and you want to make sure it's out of the way so it doesn't catch on anything or bind up and break these joints right there on the solder. Now, for the left side, the zip tie is less critical, but we're still going to use some electrical tape. And if you want to be extra careful, you can still run that zip tie. And I'm just going to follow this existing wiring down to the central location. Now, with the wires routed down by the headlight or where it goes, we're going to take one wire from each heating element and run these back to our grounding location that we already found. And we're just going to follow the existing wiring to avoid any pinch points. Okay, so you can see these wires are not going to reach our grounding spot that we already chose. If you do want to ground it somewhere else on one of these bolts, that's totally fine, but these ones didn't seem like a real good grounding spot. So we're going to add a little bit of length of wire, and we're going to solder this joint together. But if you don't have any solder, you can use a quick connector. And then we can run our wire back to our grounding location and hook it up. Now we can take the remaining 2 wires from each heating element, and we're going to twist those together and install the quick connector. At this point, we're ready to connect to our source power. So on this one, again, it's going to be this yellow wire, and to access this, I'm going to cut back this electrical tape just a little bit so we can use our splice. Now, to use this wire tap or splice, I'm just going to put this around this key on power. Then we'll take our new power lead and we're just going to slide this in next to it. And we're going to take some regular pliers and we're just going to clamp this down. And we'll just clip the top over. To mount this high-low switch, we need to find a spot for it that's going to be out of the way and somewhere you can drill a 1/2 inch hole in something. So we already have this existing hole. It's a little too small to fit this in, so we're just going to drill it out a little bit bigger and use that. Now I'm just going to make sure that the switch fits through that hole, which it does, and we're actually going to connect this to our wires at the bike and then install this once we're installing this whole headlight unit. And while we're over here, we're going to cut the ends of our grips out. Now, just like we showed you on the bench, these 2 wires that are coming from the heating elements go to this middle connector on the switch. First, I'm going to hook this wire with the resistor up. So that's going to be the low power connection. So if I flip that to low, it's pointing up this upper one. It's going to loop through there. So I'm going to make that connection. And then we can connect our last wire. Now for the resistor, we're actually going to glue this to the top of our triple clamp just with some silicone sealant, and that's going to keep it out of the way and keep it from damaging any other components. Now we'll go ahead and tie everything up with some zip ties. At this point, we can reconnect our headlight and set it into place, and then we're going to take our switch. We're going to remove this outer nut and the high-low indicator. Then we're leaving this small nut where it is. You can even move it down if you want to, wherever you need it. Put this into place. And then on the high-low plate, we have a clear film we're going to take off. And then we also have this backing. We'll remove that, and this is going to stick into place. Now just make sure that the tab that's just above the low lines up with that switch. Once you have that positioned where you want it, you can install that outer nut. At this point, we can finish reinstalling the headlight. Once you have everything wired up, you want to turn the handlebars from lock to lock and make sure nothing is binding up. Before we install the grips, it's a good idea to turn the key on and make sure these heated grips come on. So you can feel that right away with the grips off, but we have heat coming from both grips. So we're going to glue them on. Now with the throttle side, what you want to do on this is move the whole throttle housing out, and that way you're not going to get glue on the handlebar and glue your throttle tube to it. Now to install these grips, I'm just going to apply some grip glue on the inside of this grip, and when I push it on, it's just going to drag that glue all the way down the grip. And for me, it's easiest to spin these on. And once the grip is in place, you can put the throttle tube or the throttle housing back where it was. And then we'll install the grip on the other side the same way. Now at this point, we just need to reinstall our hand guards, our gas tank, and our seat. And that's it for the Tusk Grip Heater Kit install. These things are a game changer when you're out on the trail. So if you don't have them yet, be sure to pick those up on our website and subscribe to our channel for more helpful content. Thanks for watching.